Alt season is coming, and it's not just a feeling I have. In this video, I'm going to show you overwhelming proof that the naysayers, the people who are saying this time is different, may possibly be wrong. The data at least supports the fact that alt season is right around the corner. And so I want to spend the time going over very important charts like this. Of course, giving my opinion on the Bitcoin dominance chart, breaking down myths and misconceptions, and diving deep into the data. And if you stay tuned right to the very end of this video, I'm going to give you the top areas of this market that I do believe wholeheartedly will do exceptionally well in this alt season. So if you find yourself enjoying this video, but most importantly, if you leave this video learning something new or gaining a new perspective, don't forget to hit that like button in that moment, subscribe so you don't miss any of these future videos, and let's begin. Now, first of all, let me start off by saying if you aren't actively trading or even passively trading in this market, then you are not optimizing the rewards you could possibly make. Now, I trade just to be able to put the extra money I make into my altcoins to make more money when this bull run is finally over. I couldn't imagine not optimizing the time that we have here for this bull run in 2026 or 2027. I'd be disappointed in myself. And you can see with the trades we are making in our trading corner, we're not joking around. And yes, there'll be some losses along the way, but we have an insane win rate of about 70% right now. We keep things 100% transparent. And we also give back to you. If you trade in our group with our professional traders, on those losses you make, as long as you are trading, we actually give you back rewards. We give you back USDT so you can recoup any of the losses and make sure you are, again, optimized to make the most money in this bull run. I think the first and foremost thing that we have to discuss here is whether or not that Bitcoin and altcoins are actually the same this time around or not. Because I think the general consensus amongst most people is that it's not the same because Bitcoin has ETFs and most altcoins do not. Bitcoin will continue going up and alts won't have that super duper strength over Bitcoin. But I disagree, because over this entire bull run, the relationship between Bitcoin and altcoins has been the same. It's the same as it was back in every other cycle where money comes into Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin exhausts the buy pressure, like once Bitcoin has made a massive move up or down, alts take the charge from there, in the sense of alts do better or also worse, depending on the direction of the move. So what I'm talking about here in this cycle is the time in which we've been in this ascending channel. And I'll talk more about what this channel is for those who are new around here in just a moment. But when Bitcoin breaks out of these downtrends in the channel, like it did over here in October of 2023, October of 2024, and like it's done recently now, what you'll notice is Bitcoin will actually go up quite a bit in price. Okay, but after the initial week or two of Bitcoin going up, what happens here is, as you can see in this sort of other colored chart down the bottom, this is actually Bitcoin's dominance. So what happens is after Bitcoin sort of breaks out of the downtrend, the remainder of that move is consumed by altcoins. But altcoins actually do much better than Bitcoin at this time. And again, the reason we know this is because we can look at Bitcoin's dominance down here. Okay, so when Bitcoin's dominance goes down, that means altcoins are doing better. They're gaining market share over Bitcoin. So you can see once it broke out of this downtrend in around October of 2023, it actually went up here, this last final push, it broke out. But then for the remainder of this move, you can see its dominance fell. It went from about 54% down here to 50%. Okay, it's a pretty sizable drop. Now you can see once it broke out of the 8-month downtrend over here in October of 2024, as I said, it like went up here initially. Okay, actually a couple of weeks of just constant, flying. And then, of course, the last part of this move here was when its dominance literally went from 61.5% down to 54.5%, a huge drop. And that's, of course, altcoins flying. So it's important to recognize this, first of all, and I do expect, Bitcoin to continue at this rate up a bit further, and therefore alt should begin to take off here a little bit in the coming weeks. Of course, depending if Bitcoin continues to move upwards. The same relationship was observable basically back over here in 2020 and also back over here in 2018 as well. Okay, so you can see whilst we're in this ascending channel before Bitcoin breaks out, any of the pumps Bitcoin has, kind of reflects this drop in dominance. So again, while Bitcoin goes up, alts go up much more. When it's uncertainty or when it goes down like in the pandemic, of course, Bitcoin's dominance will trend upwards. And that's just simply because Bitcoin is a hedge against risk for at least crypto. It's just like gold and the S&P or stocks. When there's uncertainty in markets, people hedge their risk into gold. It's much safer. And when there's a time to make money, people go, I don't want to be safe. I want to be risk on. And they put their money into stocks. So this same relationship is playing out. And why that makes me personally so confident is because that likely means alt season will actually happen yet again. Now, what causes alt season? Well, it's taken a lot of my own research to identify what really is alt season. Many people say it's a time thing, right? It has to be Q4 of this year. Some people say a magic, crypto fairy has to wave its wand and that causes alt season. But this is what I truly do believe causes alt season. These ascending channels I spoke to you about earlier, okay, where Bitcoin kind of consolidates and trends from the bull market or bear market lows to eventually having the blow off top moment. It kind of trends in these channels until the breakout of the channel, which is, can first of all be seen here, where Bitcoin goes from $1,400 up to like $24,000, $22,000 at like 13x at that point in time. Or when Bitcoin in the previous cycle went from, $14,000 and went up to $69,000. So it's when it has the breakout of these sort of ascending channels, okay, is when, first of all, obviously it goes parabolic, but what happens is alts go up even more. And that's just kind of like a really hyperbolic example of what happens in the channel. Again, in the channel, we have kind of Bitcoin going up and then alts go up even more, like I just showed you. Okay, so of course, if you think about it, if Bitcoin skyrockets out of the channel for a whole bunch of reasons, whether it's the DXY falling, global M2 going up, we have the Fed printing, for example, so we have QE, there's a whole host of things, rates falling. Okay, so this is what would help Bitcoin break out of it. But like I said, you can see Bitcoin's dominance here in this line. It actually falls down substantially then. So when you have people saying, when's alt season? You can just simply tell them it's when Bitcoin breaks out of the ascending channel. And again, you can see here, remains above that for its final push. The question of, how far or how high will Bitcoin's dominance continue to trend? Well, as I said, if Bitcoin continues to go up from this point in time, okay, so if it continues up on this trend, then I do expect alts to kind of gain a bit of strength back, and therefore its dominance may fall a little bit in this time, like it did over here, for example, like it sort of did over here, for example. Okay, but I do think, generally speaking, it trends upwards still until we have the breakout of this ascending channel, as we have every other bull run. This is how possibly Bitcoin dominance can reach 70%, as crazy of a thought that possibly is right now. Again, in this time, especially if we hit this fourth touch, reject off the top trend line, and then do this whole process, this whole schmozzle we've gone over the last 3 months, all over again, until that fifth touch maybe has a bunch of macro catalysts helping us to push out of the channel. And I think this is a really important thing to talk about, because I don't think breaking out of this channel is going to be easy. And so I think when we finally do break out of the channel, it should be quite obvious, at least for me and you maybe watching at home, that this might actually be the start of true alt season. So there you have it. That's my personal thoughts on whether or not alt season will happen. The relationship's the same now as it's always been. And while it might be hard to believe that Bitcoin could possibly fall 20, 30, 40% in its dominance, I think that what the recent couple of years have shown us is that's likely going to happen. We just have to have Bitcoin breaking out of the channel. But what about this chart, which is the decoupling of Bitcoin and altcoins? This has been passed around by River, and a lot of influencers have spoken about this over the last few months, and I completely disagree with this chart in every sense of the word. And I highly recommend you guys at home, when you see these charts, all right, and especially being pushed without, honestly, sometimes much research, please go and do the research yourself, pull these charts up and have a look, because if we actually have a look at the relationship between Bitcoin and altcoins, the main problem people are looking at right now is this massive disparity between Bitcoin's market cap and altcoins. All right, there's a massive difference here, and they call it the decoupling, right? But if you actually have a look at it, in previous cycles, this so-called decoupling has always been here. It's always been, you can see back over here. And again, depending on when we open, right, when this chart opens, it's also more obvious in other places as well. Okay, so back over here, the difference between Bitcoin alts was actually 40% as well. You know, even as high as like 50% in some places. So it's completely normal to have Bitcoin in times of uncertainty, like we've experienced over the last few months, to kind of break away from altcoins as they're going to hedge against risk. I want to now talk about the money flow within crypto itself. Now, I do think, generally speaking, with their altcoins, most people, unless you are a crypto pro or expert or an enthusiast, that you should look no further than the top 200 coins or top 300 coins. This is where most of the money is centralized and will be centralized as the bull run kicks into alt season. For example, the top 10 altcoins. Okay, the top 10 altcoins you're seeing here, so this is Tron up, is centralized within almost 90% of all the money in crypto. Let me rephrase that. 90% of all the money in crypto is in the top 10 altcoins. Insane. And the further down you go, you see here, the bottom 1,000 coins make up almost 95% of all the coins in crypto, and yet it has not even 2% of all the money in crypto. So you're fighting down at those deep, dark depths of the crypto market for the best possible coin when every coin to most people seems the same. So in my opinion, non-financial advice, it's easier to go to the top ranking coins, and they're there for a reason, and find the ones that really stick out in that particular area. And again, I want to go into some of these areas here in just one moment, but I digress. What I wanted to talk about here as well was the relationship between Ethereum, altcoins, and Bitcoin. Because as you can see from this chart, you know, Bitcoin and altcoins, there's a pretty large discrepancy there as well, but it seems just as large between alts and ETH. Again, normally Ethereum is sort of the thing where it goes up to cause alt season, right? Again, this chart here has always shown ETH to be phase 2, and then it, you know, money flows into altcoins. You know, and so some people have spoken about this, but actually, funnily enough, this same pattern has happened in the previous cycle. Right? Again, sort of to where we are right now, roughly speaking. I mean, it's hard to tell with the cycle not being complete, but roughly to where we are right now in this cycle. Alts have been second to Bitcoin, and then Ethereum has been, you know, lower than altcoins even. And it takes kind of like this change in monetary policy, or it takes a sort of macro catalyst to then give Ethereum a reason to pump again. And then ETH from that point will, you know, kind of be second to Bitcoin. And kind of cause alt season. So I think Ethereum getting towards the bottom, you know, the range lows here is a very good sign, because that's actually what had to happen in this example in the previous cycle. So let me clarify for those of you who are new or maybe a little bit confused at what I'm trying to say here. I guess the moral of the story is where we are right now and the things that are happening in the market right now, right from Bitcoin's dominance, right through to the relationship between alts, ETH, and Bitcoin, the wealth distribution and how that ends up, everything is the same as previous cycles. And in my personal opinion, it is too early to say that even the 4-year cycle is over or dead, because you can't necessarily call something dead until we have the actual proof on the charts that it's all over. So for all we know, the macro picture might clear up. We might go from hawkish to dovish, even go as far as to get into QE, okay, in the next few months, causing a massive surge in Bitcoin and therefore altcoins. Now, it's important to understand that while altcoins overall will go up, there is going to be killer, and I mean killer, areas of this market that far outperform every other area. If we're going to just be basic with this, if the average coin 5x's, these areas and these coins in these areas might 20 or 30x, like do substantially better. And so that's what I want to focus on, because this chart that I made here a while back speaks about, you know, money flowing into Bitcoin and ETH and large caps. But specifically from large caps, there'll be narratives that do kind of form, like AI, real-world assets, DePIN, gaming, and so on, that far outweigh other narratives that might not do as well. And so I want to kind of focus on these, because you can see here that they actually do have all-time highs at different times. So what I'm saying is, if I actually show you this chart here from the previous cycle, my analysis back in 2022 clearly showed this, which was, you know, oracles, for example, these oracle coins like Chainlink, Band, API3, and Phala, all right, they pumped and they had their all-time highs at relatively the same time, give or take a couple weeks. Whereas the gaming coins, you can see here, they had their all-time high after even Bitcoin's all-time high. And then DeFi was slightly adjacent as well to both of those narratives. And so you kind of have a situation here where like these different areas of crypto and therefore different coins will have their all-time highs separate from one another. So it's important to find the ones that will do well, but again, find the ones that haven't had their all-time highs yet. Now, obviously, most people are watching this video at like the very start of Q2 2025. So it's easy for us to go, okay, narratives haven't had their all-time highs yet. But, as this progresses, I'm just giving you the fair warning right now, is you don't want to be buying into a narrative or a set of coins. Okay, like Cake, for example, where DeFi pumps over here in the start of the bull run, you don't be buying that coin down over here expecting a secondary pump because it's already had its massive growth spurt. You're buying into a coin that's fizzling out. So the most obvious areas for me to pay attention to are real-world assets, AI and DePIN coins, and I kind of would like to look for coins in AI that also double into DePIN, and USA coins, kind of the ones on this list behind me. You can, of course, look for coins that merge multiple of these, like Ondo does here with again, made in the USA, real world assets, and the World Liberty Finance coins. Or you can see a coin like Hedera does with real world assets, AI, DePIN, and so on. You want to find ones that overlap. The more narratives a coin is in, the better, just simply because if AI starts pumping, the coin's going to trend upwards with AI coins. If it's mainly in real world assets, let's say it's like, let's say it's Chainlink here, for example. It's got AI components, but it might be mainly known for real-world assets. So by the time real-world assets come around and the narrative pumps, you're going to have the coin do substantially better. Okay, so it just creates a higher floor for the coin to bounce off of when it actually has its main pump. That'll conclude the video, guys. I wanted to finish up here on 2 points. One, layer 1 coins, DeFi coins, Oracle coins, these will all do well, these narratives, but I think first and foremost, USA coins, AI, DePIN, and real-world asset coins are by far the most important areas of crypto. And the second thing, just to summarize here, is again, just like this chart shows, after major Bitcoin pumps, you can see the others or the altcoin market dominance really spike and it really falls in uncertainty. So again, what I'm eyeing off here is just simply Bitcoin pumping first, okay, and doing its thing, followed by a small alt season. Once it breaks out of the ascending channel, that is when we can kind of call, even prematurely, there to be a likely huge alt season. So thank you all for watching this video right to the very end. If you've made it this far, you can let me know you have by hitting that like button down there. And again, if you are new, make sure you are subscribed. Again, I tell you what you need to hear on this channel, not necessarily what you want to hear. I keep it factual, I keep it real, and that's to help you get no BS crypto information. Talk to you all tomorrow. Take good care. Bye-bye.